Welcome to the AI for You Cafe today on Tuesday, not our regular Wednesday, but Tuesday, March 24th. Title today is Promoting Unethical AI is Very Easy. Stay away from arts and culture. And welcome, Max. Here's Max. Hi, thank you for joining us. As always, we start slow, so we let all the people come in. Max will soon also introduce himself, but let's start as always slowly. And my name is Carmen McWilliams. I am the moderator and organizer and the director of Grassroots Arts in Cologne and partner in the European AI for You project. Please take notice that the session will be, like always, recorded. You can find later the recordings online in our AI for You Cafe archive. No confidential information shall be shared in this cafe session. In this cafe, the speaker expresses his personal view and opinion. This is not necessarily the official AI for You project opinion. So, and for you, once more, what is the cafe about? The cafe offers a series of live web sessions which will take place regularly from now on, all the time. The cafe is an online forum to gain insight into the European AI scene. Participants get the chance to share knowledge and experience and meet stakeholders from various areas of AI research and application. So today, I promised that we do it a little bit different than normal. We have today a roundtable format. We are testing it with Max. He said yes, which means we allow all participants also to speak. I will open the mics, which, like when Max will do this presentation, he will make some breaks, and afterwards we can also this time ask questions with a microphone. Also, if you have questions, it may be different, and you maybe also have comments, you maybe also have answers. So feel free to use the microphone then. But now we start as always. I introduce Max. Hi. So Max works as AI representative of Society for Digital Ethics. He's a freelance. In the moment, he works in Germany, in Berlin. He's also the ambassador of the Republic of Usipis in Munich. And he represents the Republic of Usipis and its constitution. He promotes the exchange between arts and technology. And he's involved in talks, interviews, and discussions. And I think from this on, Max shall do it himself. Tell us who you are.
All right. So let's check. So first of all, thank you very much, Carmen, for having me. Hello, everyone. And I'm trying to start.
Yes, I give you now the.
Okay.
Now you can start. So yeah.
So now I will start, and I think you should be able to watch my presentation now. So I usually tend to talk far too quickly, so please feel free to interrupt me at any time. Raise your hand to give Carmen a sign that I'm talking too fast, or if you have any questions, please feel free.
Oh, I think we lost you.
Now you should hear me.
Now,
something told me I was muted. Okay. So I hope you're all fine in your quarantine or wherever you are right now. And I'm going to start my talk about how to promote unethical AI by staying away from arts and culture. So
okay. There's some transmission problem. I have you again.
So now you can see my presentation without my picture in front. All right. So I chose this definitely a very provocative topic on how to promote unethical AI, because ethical AI is such a huge topic. At least has been so until maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks. And what I would like to talk about with you is, if I manage to do this, first of all, oh, wait a second. So what is the interplay between arts and culture and AI? How can they benefit from each other? And my thesis is, and I mean, I'm not the only one telling this, that AI has the potential, that arts and culture has the potential to make AI more innovative, more accessible, and more ethical. And I would like to give a few examples about this, starting with the question of, not starting with this, what is ethical AI? I mean, when is AI ethical? I mean, we have all these examples in mind of like bad bias, recruiting algorithms, and Facebook algorithms that are accused of fueling riots in Myanmar and stuff and like this. So, and these algorithms that discriminate against this kind of people, and algorithms that are used for surveillance and so on. So, what is ethical in the end? And this is, I think, a really tough question. And I don't believe that there's one single answer, because first of all, ethical standards vary from time to time. Here you see a picture of Jeff Bezos in his first office in 1999, and you could have imagined him telling something like this: "Oh, these guys, I cannot talk. There might be bugging devices in my office." And now in 2020, you could see him talking to his Amazon, like, order, hey Buck, please order some toilet paper for me, telling something like this. So which is totally normal today, especially today, but which was like unthinkable 20 years ago, that you personally buy your bugging device and put it in your flat. So another point is that ethical standards vary from place to place. And these were the protests in Berlin when they wanted to open the Google office because of Google's behavior with regard to privacy of data. And on the other side of the world, you have these examples of Chinese people with these scoring systems, where you see them that they really use this for dating. I heard about this, so this would definitely be the lady you should marry, which is leading with 753 points. So these people are totally fine with giving all their data. I mean, probably not in general, but I mean, you see, that would be totally unthinkable in Germany. So the question of what is ethical is very hard to answer, and I don't believe that there is a general answer. So, but I think it's just worth encountering and getting closer to arts and culture and mingling a little bit, because this can have some positive effects. Here's one very important example proving how these ethical standards vary. Maybe you know about this moral machine experiment done by the MIT, where they asked people how they would how they would behave in a situation where they had to choose. Usually, you know, this trolley problem where you go down the street and you have to choose which people you kill in front of you. You can only choose between killing either the elderly person or the young person, and they vary it with different kinds of people and animals and stuff like this. And all the world is asked to judge this and how they would decide, and you can compare this. And this is definitely very interesting, and definitely not the same all over the world, because some people have the tendency to do nothing at all if they can't do anything right. Some people have to say, well, definitely save the elderly, and so on. So there are different standards all over the world. So there was this free thesis I made up, that arts and culture can make AI more innovative, more accessible, and more ethical. And so let's start with the first one, more innovative. I think in general, and this is definitely not proven fact, this is just one thesis. In general, I think the arts and culture, they have always been the starting point of innovation. When you see that since 40,000 years before, people started making arts and culture, and the first time they invented the technique of stone carving, a very essential technique. If you can carve stones, you can write in it, you can make buildings out of it. It was invented 30,000 years ago, but it was not invented to build houses or something. It was invented to create cultural figures like this Venus of Willendorf. And it took 25,000 years until it was used for technical reasons, like carving the first wheel made out of stone. Even this one was not made to carry some weights, but it was made as a toy for people. So out of some joyful experiential mood, people created these innovations. And the first time metal molding was applied, it was in order to produce this little cute frog. And it took like 500 or 400 more years until it was used to produce metal. And there are also some example when it comes to AI and robotics. So the first of ideas of robotics, they don't come from some university, they come from, at least they date back to the idea of the golem from the medieval Talmud, or the Chapek's RUR robot from the 1920s, the first time the word robot was ever used. And it was until 1951 that the first real AI applications were used in science and industry, and the first robots were used in industry. But there were always people in between these disciplines that tried to merge this, and just by accident maybe, or maybe by coincidence, they really created something. Like, for example, Leonardo da Vinci is always a very, very famous example for this. But he was always ahead of time with what the stuff he invented. And here in Bavaria, it's funny that we had this König Ludwig, who is like, if you consider Bavaria as one of the leading areas for car automotive industry, then it's very funny that the first time that a car got electrified, that any vehicle was electrified, was when Ludwig the King, King Ludwig II, wanted to do a slide ride at night. So the people had to put electric light on his slide, and that was the first time that vehicles and electricity ever got combined. So this is definitely, this interchange of these two areas is definitely something worth investigating, or maybe worth putting together strategically. So, but at the same time, when it comes to promoting unethical AI, arts and culture is a very, very interesting source for inspiration. We had all these movies in the 60s warning us of the potential of technology. For example, the movie Dr. Strangelove, maybe you know this, and where they invented the automated doomsday machine. And this is one example where people had the idea to warn the people about the possibilities of technology, but in fact, well, maybe they more or less inspired people on how to use technology. And actually, there's a debate on whether you should use AI control over the nuclear missiles. So some people would really like the idea. I think it's really, really horrible. And another example where the culture or science fiction inspired technology is James Bond movie, which is considered the first movie where they showed face recognition. And there's this quote: CIA technical service Robert Wallace, sorry, I have to check this, revealed that he was asked to develop the face recognition software used by the villain in a View to Kill by a James Bond movie. So this was the moment when they got this idea for face recognition. So the next thesis was that arts and culture can make AI more accessible, because when we think about AI, it's for most people, it's what is AI? AI is invisible. AI is just electronics. You cannot see it, you cannot smell it, you cannot touch it. It's something related to algorithm, robots, bias, machine learning. So it's a confused mix of fears, hopes, and some technical terms. And arts and culture have the potential to materialize these thoughts, to give it a shape. And this was famously done with the HAL 9000, this really evil device from the movie 2001 from Stanley Kubrick. We all know these examples of the Terminator robot, and one recent example of Ava, the humanoid shown in the movie ex machina. And this is in most cases, these are in most cases the examples that people start presentations about AI to give it a picture, to give it a face. And this is all examples from the site, from the arts and culture world, which try to materialize what we are talking about. And there are other artists that really try to give you a grasp of what AI is capable of or what is AI not capable of. And there was this really nice website where you could explore the ImageNet dataset. So the ImageNet dataset was a huge that dataset which was applied. Sorry, is there a question? Oh, it seems so. So the ImageNet dataset was used to classify people. It was and so it is interesting to know how accurate this data set works. And there were some artists who just said, okay, let's explore this. Let's take this data set and allow everyone to upload his pictures and just test this data set. And this was possible until last September. For some reason, they stopped it. But so I tried it, and I used a picture of a friend. He had the great idea to take a picture of himself 3 times. So it's just one picture within each other, but it's the same person. So if this AI is working properly, it should see 3 times the same thing. So the first thing it saw is a valedictory speaker in the upper picture. This is, I mean, on the left, this is the exact result from the ImageNet dataset. The second thing it saw, it says, okay, it's not just a valedictorian speaker, it's also a spaceman or a cosmonaut or something. And the third thing, in the smallest picture it saw, is that, oh, this is definitely a non-smoker for whatever reason. So this gives you a glimpse. I mean, this is totally exaggerated example, but this was the real result from what ImageNet revealed. And there are, in the political area, there are also examples where people try to use arts and cultural examples in order to make this technology more accessible. For example, Estonia wanted to bring in some new legislation about AI, and they wanted to discuss this with the people. So they had to give the people an idea about what AI is. And they had the advantage that in their culture, they had this figure of the krat. And the krat is a thing which is formed from sticks and hay, so stuff that everyone has at home, like we have a computer and could possibly code. It obeys its master, it does everything the master wants, and it needs to be busy all the time. It works all the time. So, and this myth of the krat is several hundred years old. So all the people know it, and now they can relate to, okay, this is how AI works. What they don't tell in most cases, the funny thing about the krat is it costs your soul if you want to animate the krat. This is what the devil does. But the legend tells that the Estonian people tricked the devil by serving blackcurrant juice, tricking the devil into thinking this is blood. So maybe with, as we saw with this ImageNet algorithm, maybe this would work with AI, we don't know. So, okay. So now let's get to making AI more ethical. And in general, arts and culture is a kind of society's immune system that always reacts when there's the danger of technology taking over. When there was this trend of industrialization in the 19th century, suddenly this trend of arts and crafts movement emerged, where they were trying to make everything, all the world around you, including the machines you work, more human again, more natural, more organic again. So like a counterculture that emerged. When nuclear power was taking over in the 60s, suddenly science fiction became a huge thing, and they had things, all these arts and tech programs were initiated there, like the experiments in arts and tech with people like Andy Warhol that started in the late 60s in New York. And today, with the AI takeover, well, we will see where it leads to, but there are a lot of programs, especially from Ars Electronica and the STARTS program from the European Union and their AI lab, which explicitly bring together people from the AI world and the tech world and the science world to develop new visions and new solutions. What was this? Yeah, this is a video. We can skip this. So what are the artists doing to make AI more ethical? For example, there's this project Alias where they put this thing on top of a Google HomePod, and there was this threat of the Google HomePod listening to everything you told at home, whether you wanted to listen or not. And this is a device that you put on top of your HomePod, which just silences your HomePod. It disconnects the HomePod and it doesn't allow it to listen anymore until this device tells it, now you can listen. This device works like a parasite in a positive way. And while Google HomePod is activated whenever the Google algorithm thinks it's right or not, this thing activates the Google HomePod only when you mention the one word that it's trained for. So you train it by giving it a new name, and you can be sure that it only reacts when it listens to when you use the name that you agreed on before. So this totally protects your privacy as a kind of countermeasure of where artists try to make AI more ethical. Another example is the bias in AI data sets, which is often a problem of labeling. If you have image data which is labeled like, there you see people of color, there you see women, there you see this and that, and these labels, the way they are put in there, they can cause troubles themselves. And the interesting thing is that many of the people that put these labels into the data sets, they work in Africa or Asia, a lot of people in Africa, and often it was revealed that these the data sets discriminated exactly against these people. They discriminated against people of color, people from the global south, and so on. So there are projects which are absolutely on the edge of being legal or not. For example, like there's this Décide Pas movement where people in Congo, they recruited people from the label worker farms, and they developed countermeasures. So whenever they had a new job to label this and this data set, they checked this data set for where is it used, whom can it discriminate against, what do we want this label set to this data set to function as, and then they developed ad hoc strategies and processes to change the labels into another direction so that this data set would fulfill another purpose, which is definitely went too far because it's close to sabotage, but it's an interesting example of in which ways the artists think. A definitely legal example, because funded by the Italian ministry, is the IACOS project in Italy. IACOS stands for Intelligencia Artificiale Quartiera Open Source or something like this. And they had the idea of bringing an AI infrastructure into an area of Rome, but making sure that it does exactly what the people wanted to do. And so they needed some basis for discourse with the people, and they had this great metaphor of saying, okay, there's a new baby coming to town, it's called AI. This is the new citizen, and we have to raise it all together, and we can decide how we raise it and how it will behave in the future. And so, for example, if you want this new baby, this new citizen, to manage the traffic for you, you have to feed it. And of course, what does the AI baby eat? It eats data, and it eats traffic data. And the people all together in various formats, from workshops and talks and so on, they had these debates on which data are we willing to give away in order to get which benefit out of this. And then there also, this was all like, it was totally decentralized. That means, okay, this it was only valid for this one area and was not about like general standards of data privacy. It was about this local community, what they wanted the AI to be able to and what they wanted the AI to know. It was totally bottom up. It was designed together with the people that were affected by the AI, and it was totally open source. That means whenever something was going wrong, they had the chance to immediately correct this. So I think this area in Rome, I guess, is one of the least areas where you would ever expect any concerns about ethical AI, because it's totally in control of the people there. Okay, and now as last example, just a few words about my work for the Republic of Užupis. The Republic of Užupis is a self-declared independent artist republic, self-declared in 1997 in Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania. It has an area of 0.6 square kilometers and about 7,000 people live there. Most of them are artists. And we have our own government, which is still active since 1997 without changes, so it's the most stable government in Europe, we like to joke. And we have our own constitution. And we also had an army of like 12 to 13 people, but the problem is our constitution did not allow to use any violence, so the army was useless. Here you see a picture of Pope Francis blessing our constitution when he was on a visit in 2019 in Vilnius. And the interesting thing about this constitution, this is the world's first constitution that contains an article about artificial intelligence. So there was added one article below for the Munich version, which says any artificial intelligence has the right to believe in the goodwill of humanity, because this is the belief of the Republic of Užupis and the basis of my work in the ethical area of AI. That I don't believe that there is any line of code for like the universal ethics that you could apply somewhere. I think in the end it always starts with people. And we'll get back to this in a few seconds. Here you see a picture of the Munich embassy. That's where when we were exhibiting at Ars Electronica Festival last year. On the right hand side you see our proud consul Roboy. It's a humanoid Roboy, and he cares for our naturalization, so you can talk to him. There's a chatbot behind, and if you answer the questions correctly, he will grant you the citizenship of Užupis. Yeah, and besides this, we do development sprints for AI products based on sci-fi inputs. We do workshops on ethics, and we develop studies and strategies on the ethical landscape, and especially with focus on Europe. And we produce deliverables, for example, like our own principles for trustworthy AI as a response to the recommendations on trustworthy AI by the European Union, where we say it's like you have to totally rely on trust in the designers of AI. This is the central point, the people behind it. There's always people behind AI working on it, that you should support and motivate to really consider the consequences of the work, which means you should encourage an ongoing process of readjusting the AI. It's not once you produce it and then give it out to the world and you can be sure that it works perfectly fine forever. No, you have to regularly check this, and you have to rework if it's not working properly, and you might have to compensate people if it has caused any harm. And these principles also foster the adoption to diverse and dynamic conceptions of ethics, because like I showed in the beginning, it's the ethical standards vary from time to time, from place to place. So you have to design a process that really cares for this and puts that in. And here I think this is almost our last question, last slide, because I think in AI is just a magnifying mirror for human behavior. So there's so much discussion about how we can make this strange AI thing behave like we want it to behave, or like to train it and educate to become better and or understandable or whatever, which is definitely very metaphorically speaking. But in the end, what does AI do? I mean, many algorithms just check the human behavior. It checks how we treat each other. It checks how we treat nature. It checks how we choose what we eat, how we choose our partners, and then it magnifies this behavior. It reinforces this and scales this globally. And this is in many cases of algorithms the way it works and how they cause unethical stuff on the world or not. But this is the reason why we think, okay, if we want to change something about the behavior of AI, this is another reason to look at the behavior of humans first. So that's basically it. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm curious about your questions.
Thank you, Max. Exciting, really exciting. I'm just trying to digest all these interesting examples.
Yeah, sorry for going so quick.
And I have also right away questions. I will first, but also say to the public and to all participants, if you like, raise your hand. There is a button of raising the hand. I can give you the mic as well. Or as always, you can also write down text questions on the right side. There's a panel for questions as you like. No? You don't have to speak if you don't like to speak, but you may. No? And I'm trying to now take back my moderation. Meanwhile, I'm curious what I would like. What are you working right now? Which project are you working on?
So with regards to AI and Ujupis, there's 2 projects I'm working on. Besides, I mean, in general, I'm always like contacting people and just looking for possibilities to exhibit Ujupis and to add some new ideas on this. One project I'm not allowed to talk about. The other one is we're working on.
Sorry, there's a transmission problem. Hello, Max? Max? Hello? Hello, Max?
Hello.
Hello,
Okay.
once more. Sorry.
Yeah.
There was one project you're not allowed to talk about, but the other one, so once more.
Okay, the other one is just it's rather a fun project for the Republic of Ujupis, where we are developing a constitution for artificial intelligences. So it's like a mind game. So what would a world look like where we are inhabited, where AIs live all around us, and we have to deal with them like equal beings? And how would artificial intelligences constitute themselves if they had to care about other artificial intelligences? And this is a possibility to explore very new ideas of thinking. And for example, in the first draft, one of these articles for the constitution would be any artificial intelligence has the right to freely choose and change its embodiment, just to give people the idea of, okay, we as humans, we consider ourselves 100% connected to our body, so that it would be totally unthinkable that you could just change your body. But if you look at the robot or Consul, this is a robot which is meant to become as good as a human body. The aim of the creator of Roboy is to go with this mind into the robot body one day. And once you have a robot body as your own, I mean, you can modify the body. I mean, you can, and there you're forced to choose. What gender you have? Do you have a gender at all? So I think as there is also a lot of debate in ethical AI going around the term of gender bias, I think this would be could be a nice way to make this whole discussion obsolete once humanity had the chance to freely choose and change an embodiment. So that, yeah.
Okay, thank you for my question. And here also Kai, he says it's very interesting and refreshing to hear what you're talking. He says, thank you, it's always refreshing to hear something new. If you want to say something more, please raise your hand. I think for us it's all new, this with the raising hand. I must say myself, I'm not completely yet good in this. So the next question is, you might give us some more explanation about this Republic of Uzupis in.
Yeah.
Is it a real, in Vilnius, is this a real community, or is it, or are you artists or researchers who work internationally together? Is there real land behind, or what is it?
Most people tend to describe Užupis as a utopia because of its beautiful, funny constitution and how they think they would love to live there together. In fact, Užupis is, first of all, it was an area in Vilnius, which existed since 100 years or even more. And this area of Vilnius was across the river. And Užupis, Užupe means across the river. And it was was after the breakdown of Soviet Union, was totally abandoned, dominated by crime and violence, and the people they had to survive somehow. They had to find a way to create a sense of shared identity and community, and that's why they made this constitution, and that's why they made a funny constitution, something that makes you laugh or makes you cry. It's really touching, but they did not want, they definitely did not want a constitution to say, okay, you're allowed to do this, you're allowed to do, not to do this, because people killed each other. There's no joke. They killed each other and they didn't care about the laws. So that's why they started all this project. And yes, there's an area, but Užupis is not restricted to this area. So Užupis can be wherever you want it to be. That's why we have like 500 ambassadors around the world and honorary citizens, including His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and Jonas Mekas was one of our ambassadors, the experimental filmmaker from New York, and so on.
Okay, so, and here comes a question from Maribel Tejada. Hi, can you elaborate a bit more on how you demonstrate AI is ethical? Did you hear?
I heard it, but how I would say AI is ethical.
No, can you elaborate? Talk a little bit more about how you can demonstrate AI is ethical. How you can demonstrate it? Like I think artists are able, and I mean, how to demonstrate it, how to show it to. I think.
Whoa, good question. I have no spontaneous answer. I mean, I know about a lot of examples where you can demonstrate how it's unethical. I mean, it's like, and I guess proving how it's ethical would be the opposite. I mean, when you want to prove how unethical AI is or can be in some situations, one famous example is the recruiting algorithm of Amazon, which shows much more men for higher position than women. So you could see the percentage of people that were invited to the job application interviews, which was much more men than women. So, and then they can see this potential percentage, whether it's totally representative for the people, or whether it's like totally biased. This is one example where you can see where it's unethical, for example.
Yeah, but to demonstrate it's ethical, it is. I think I thought about this too. I mean, how can you show?
I mean, there's this. I don't have this slide with me. There are these one attempts and these countermeasures that I showed. They start with, okay, we have this AI causing a problem, so we tried to make this negative effect smaller. So you get to a level, so they try to decrease the negative effect until they get to a level where AI is just like, it's not unethical, it's just there. But then you want to further improve this, there starts the area of AI for good. For example, you have this UN conference on AI for good, where right now people are checking on how can we use AI to tackle the coronavirus problem and so on. And this is also an area. I don't know whether artists are already active in this area. I think they're rather watching the surveillance side of what's happening right now. So yeah, I think if you're so there's the question behind what is ethical AI, what is ethical behavior. I think it was rather directed in the way of what is like virtuous behavior, what is the good behavior that we all want to see more of.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. And here, Irina, I see that you raised your hand. I give you now the mic. I hope you are ready to do it. Irina Doljopolova, I give you now the mic. Hi, Irina, do you hear us?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Hi. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So yeah, I'm Irina Dolgopolova from Technical University of Munich. So my question is actually, my first question was really close to the one just discussed. So I was going to ask you if you ever thought of constructing some kind of a definition of what is ethical AI, because without defining what actually it means being ethical in AI, yeah, it's very difficult to answer your main hypothesis that art actually reinforces some ethical aspects of behavior.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. What I had a perfect answer in mind right now, but it's sorry, I forgot this. Sorry, can you repeat the first part of your question, please?
That it might be interesting to develop some kind of a definition of what it means. Yeah.
So I'm really split on this question, because on the one hand side, it would be perfect to have a definition to say, okay, this is ethical, and then we can simulate it or like program it, operationalize it, put it into a code, and if we execute this code properly, this AI will behave ethical. On the other hand side, I mean, what is the measure of what is the yardstick for ethical behavior? It's people complaining or not in the end. I mean, you can have, if you have a perfect, ethically perfect algorithm that accidentally kills people, well, from that moment on, it's not ethical. So, and this is I think one of the main hurdles for the European policy making, that on the one hand side, the companies are asking for, give us a definition, because I mean, the companies just want to stick to the rules. And I feel really pity for all the companies that are always accused of behaving unethical, because in most cases, I think in all cases, it's totally right what they do in a legal sense. They never do illegal stuff, but it's still, it feels somehow unethical. And I think one big move to motivate the companies to invest more in ethical AI was, to be honest, the big punishment from the European Commission on Facebook, where they charged them 13 billion euros or something like this. And so maybe but this is like totally controversial, maybe it's not okay to have any definition. Maybe it's just like, let the people decide afterwards and judge it. So, well, because this showed an effect, but I'm totally not sure about this. But great question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting answer. Yeah, definitely could be discussed for longer. But I have one more small question. So you provided some examples of how art can actually improve technology, right? So how it can actually force technology for further development. But there are also examples when art actually reinforces unethical technology development, right?
Yeah.
So do you think it could be also useful to get some of these examples when you discuss this topic?
I mean, I think there were some examples in there that also caused some really, really bad stuff. I mean, whenever, and this is the paradoxical thing, whenever artists or cultural makers try to warn the population about some possible future development, in most cases there always was one person who thought, hey, actually this idea is not that bad. I mean, I think right now in Germany, okay, it's not that. I think this is related to AI. They had these bees that were trained to look for illegal cannabis plants, And with computer vision, they analyzed the wiggle tail dance of the bees when they came back to their swarm. So the camera set could tell the police, okay, this bee is dancing in this way, so 400 meters in this direction you will find some illegal plants. And this was, I think, in 2013. It was just a fun project by some artists telling, okay, this is how the world could survey us with the help of AI and harmless bees. And I think last year they started to introduce this in the German police, and in New York they are practicing this for a few years right now. So it was meant as a warning, but was taken as a manual, like in unfortunately many cases.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And if anybody has another question, I see in a moment most people, I try to find another question, but I see that I think the questions are now answered. And my question is now, are you proposing for START? You showed before START. START is an initiative by the European Commission where they try to bring scientists, technicians, and artists together in all kind of different research areas, but for sure in AI. Are you looking in the moment for partners? Are you planning to do an AI project? So are you in this area active? Do you want to do a project, or are you planning to do something? Shall people contact you for something?
Yes, for all, because right now we're in Munich, we're talking to the city of Munich, and we're in contact with the STARTS program and other people, because I would love to have a START center in Munich. It needs to be one in Munich, because so much AI stuff is going on in Munich. All the AI funding money in Germany is pushed down to Munich. There are so many big initiatives and so many stuff in the technology and science sector going on. I think it would be a huge benefit for both sides to have something where arts and technology could come together. I think the perfect vehicle for this would be a START center, or something like the Future Lab from Ars Electronica in Linz, something where artists and technologists and scientists can come together and work on new visions and new solutions. And yes. So I think we have a lot of artists. I think we're rather looking for the industry partners that are interested in these projects, open for these projects, because it's not that familiar in Germany until today.
The audio is somehow disappearing for some reason. Maybe bandwidth is difficult. Okay. So I heard yes, but you're looking for industrialists.
Yeah.
Yes. So you have a lot of artists, but you're still looking for industrial entrepreneurs, no? Technical industrialists. Yes. I heard about this initiative from Bavaria. I'm here in North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. It's another part of Germany, and I heard that they are now also asking in universities to make teams more together. So I'm informed from colleagues in Bavaria, which is really interesting. And I have one more question here before I'm closing the question round. It's like from Gerard Kennedy. Are you willing? I'm giving you the mic. So if you are still willing, Gerard, and let's see. For some reason, I cannot give you the mic. Maybe you put yourself on. Gerard, I don't know if you still have interest to speak. I cannot put on your mic. Seems like one more. If you want to talk, you have to click on this microphone. Yeah, it's okay. Back his question. Good. Then thank you very much, Max.
Thank you.
We're closing in now, and I think super interesting for me, of course, as I'm also in this area of art, science, and technology. I think more corporations have to be done, and more people have to work together. We had before from Bach, Mia here in our cafe. He was also talking about what they do in Amsterdam, and I'm connected to Ars Electronica, so we get a lot of inspirations. I think the artists are also a bridge to the people, to the citizens, we can, I mean, be communicators. And we can raise questions which maybe other people don't dare, and together you can make very interesting steps forward in innovation, because with all these different ways of thinking, we can not only add on each other, but we basically can do things we cannot do alone. So I think that's why from the beginning on, it's interesting to work as artists, scientists, and technicians together.
Yeah.
And I wish now that you have a nice day. Tomorrow the cafe goes on, so I say goodbye to you, Max, and to the public. I will show one more slide what we are doing tomorrow. So if you feel like tomorrow to join, I'm just in a moment have to make this. One moment, I sometimes also need some, and my slide is not come. So. Okay, it's not really working. So tomorrow will be Tara Schlovsky. She's CEO and founder of Global Tech Education, nonprofit she's from California, but she works in the whole world, and they are trying to involve the people from the bottom up in AI innovation. The title is of her speech, AI at the Grassroots, Why We Need a Different Approach to Achieve the UN 2030 Agenda. I met her in the Global Forum of AI in Paris. It was the Global Forum of AI for Humanity. And she's very interesting. Since 15 years, she works with people, especially in areas where they are disadvantaged, like in third world countries, and try to do projects with them which serve their hyper-local community. And I'm very happy if you join us tomorrow. And thank you, Max. And whoever wants to talk to Max more in detail, or maybe start a project or involve Max in her or his project, please send an email to Max or me. And also the presentation will be available afterwards, and also the recording. So thank you again for being with us, and have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye. No?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.